Thanks for attending the webinar. A big thanks to ADEC for allowing me this space to share our common practice in community engagement. I'm going to start my presentation right now. Can you see?
Yes, Dr. Adele.
Okay. All right. Community participation is essential in the collective response to COVID-19, from compliance with lockdown to steps that need to be taken as countries ease restrictions to community support through volunteering. So we can see that many clearly want to help. It is therefore important to incorporate insights and practices from such engagement, central to rebuilding and readjusting to new norms. So today, I'll be taking you through these 8 ideas for today's webinar, and well, enjoy. Okay, so University Malaya has just recently been announced 59th in the world by the THE World University Rankings. And it's as much as I'm proud to be part of this historic moment, there has been an outside impression painted on our organizational behavior and policies that teaching meaningful engagement and impact to society do not take center stage as we seemingly bow to ranking validation. So I beg to differ. I think university academics and students alike spend our extra time having intellectual discourses and engagement with community to contribute to the progressive development of the society. So ranked or not, these are additional frills that I think we do. And we are pride of the nation. Okay. As I promised earlier in the outline, Children Without is a report by United Nations in 2017 and is on urban children poverty and deprivation in low-cost flats in Kuala Lumpur. And before I pour through a few selected pages of this report, it's important for us to think for a few minutes. Are these intergenerational cycles of poverty and disadvantage? Are these cycles a matter of chance? Who determines which children will live or die or have enough to eat or can go to school or see a doctor or play in a safe place? So it's important for us to let this sink for a while before we move on. The key is to think whether intergenerational cycles of poverty and disadvantage exist. Okay. So these are highly dense flats with overcrowding per flat. In the report, Children Without, it was found that almost all children, or 99.7%, living in low-cost flats in the capital city lived in relative poverty, while 7% lived in absolute poverty. So the percentage of those suffering from problems linked to malnutrition and education was said to be alarming. And these children, or these people, face issues of broken homes, social illnesses, low confidence, low self-esteem, and performing at levels below their peers out there. These are some pages from the report. So as you can see, 2% of 7 to 17-year-olds do not go to school. 1 in 3 earns less than 2,000 ringgit per month. And I'd like for all of us to remember the policy recommendation here: a safe, shared space for children. So they need safe, shared spaces. Okay, keep that in mind as I go through the slides. That was how Pearl was formed. Pearl was funded by University Malaya and in collaboration with Pearl's first stakeholder, Surau Mutiara Damansara. Pearl was born in 2018. Pearl means pedagogy of English language acquisition among urban poor learners. The aims are twofold. One is for learners and one is for volunteers. Okay, so for the learners, we wanted to create sessions which are game-based, story-based, technology-based, and art-based to improve interest, confidence, and communicative competency. For the volunteers, we wanted to develop teacher volunteers' pedagogical skills in dealing with urban poor learners. The Surau folks actually reached out to us as they needed help with the children as well as the volunteers. Their are actually, we realize, many volunteers out there without the necessary pedagogical skills to assist the community, but they are out there volunteering and helping and assisting communities. So that was why we had these two aims for Pearl. For volunteers, volunteers may not necessarily be of teaching background, of teaching expertise. They may not have the teaching background, but they are usually those with eyes lit and sometimes anger and frustration when dealing with the target community, meaning they have the passion to do something for the community. So Pearl has one leader volunteer and 5 volunteers helping out usually. So we have, for example, leader volunteer Zainul Hakim leading 5 others for one Pearl project, and Arena for another Pearl project, and Irfan another Pearl project. So usually the arrangement is as such. Remember the safe spaces for children from Children Without? So the first Pearl used the huge Surah Mutiara Damansara as a place for solace. So we had reading sessions, storytelling, dance, trust building tasks, and games as well for this first Pearl. So they developed also along the way leadership skills. And also we have peer-led reading sessions, and these little helpers get certificates for doing this. We've also brought them out on a field trip to the university, building their aspirations and showing them the pride of the nation, University Malaya. And we kept it high tech, so the learners were also exposed to computer technology because they needed their skills. They had performance day, award day, where they developed confidence and team spirit, among others. And more performances with lights, camera, and action. They performed Amelia's Magical Adventure, a play in English with characters from Asuri, Hang Tuah, Putri Gunung Ledang, and other Malay legendary characters from Malay folk tales. Okay, and Pearl was then in the mass media, featured in many local newspapers, and we attracted interested parties. So at the time, Pearl was still new, and the Pearl module was halfway created. Yes, we were working on a module to be shared with similar communities. So we were very careful with Pearl expansion. And then we tested our Pearl frameworks. One was for learners and one was for volunteers. And both received recognitions in 2018 and 2019. So, and then we had this confidence somewhat to start expanding. And once these frameworks and their descriptors are in place and module is ready, we began expanding. So Yayasan Amal Asas approached the faculty for the urban poor community in Lembah Subang. And then from talks with MBPJ reps, there was interest for Pearl for orphaned or urban poor children in PJ. So both signed and were on board after that. It's important to understand here that each Pearl, while sticking to its original roots, is co-designed with the community reps and funders. We build dialogues and reflections, and we use their capacity as insiders to lessen bureaucratic formalities, for example. So we work together throughout the project. So Pearl 2.0 for Lembah Subang was born and had an added value, which is racial integration. Racial and cultural integration became part of Pearl 2.0 as children from other races participate in the project as well. And the safe space, remember the safe space I talked about? Pearl 2.0 was carried out at the school's open hall. Okay, I'd like to share with you a video of something that we did for Pearl 2.0 in Lembah Subang. Okay, So Pearl 2.0 after that was also in the news, and this was March 2020, right, right in the midst of an upward trend, and then bam, we had along came the pandemic, COVID lockdown. So we see highly localized mutual aid groups springing up slowly all over the country, with citizens helping one another with simple tasks such as checking on well-being of elderly, the ill, frontliners' well-being, distribution of essentials like food, clothing. But it's important to ask this question at the time, like even now, what happened to that safe space? The safe space we were trying to provide to the children. So during MCO and also now, as restrictions are lifted, these children are still there in those flats, crowding. So it seems like are we not still replicating the same social structure here? I posted a question earlier that are these a matter of chance? This cyclical thing here we have. So it's food for thought, actually. It's food for our thought. Okay. So evolution to the rescue. Usually evolution is thought to be a slow process which happens over generations. However, environmental evolution or changes happen very, very rapidly. So came Online Pearl, and Online Pearl started mid-March and is still currently ongoing. So the volunteers use laptops or even phones. No videos, they use audios. No audio, or they can't understand something not clear, they would type using the phone. So if people in general are worried about inactive participation or students' lack of interest in learning online, so these underprivileged children, well, they're going through a lot more, actually. Okay, so these are some of the challenges that we faced. Reaching out to the community. First was to reach out to the community. If you have been working with the community, it's not that difficult. But if you haven't, it would be a bit difficult. So you would have to reach out to representatives, community representatives or school representatives, gather phone numbers of interested parents, getting consent. So you've got to go through all those. Those are challenging. And the next is connectivity. A lot of them are not connected or not sufficient connected. So if you have a funder, you may want to invest on connectivity for these underprivileged children. They don't have tools. They lack tools. Sometimes tools are non-existent. They don't have computers. They would share phones with their siblings or with their parents. So that's also a disadvantage there. And interruptions are normal. You would have disruptions and distractions. If you have 7 siblings in one small living area, what would you expect? You would have to cope with a lot of disruptions and noise. Okay, and another challenge is actually to understand learners and their levels or skills. If you've met them before MCO, you probably can gauge where they are. But if you haven't met them, it's not easy to understand where they are, especially when they are extremely shy, very quiet, less skilled, and ultra introverted. So it's important to build their trust in you before you can actually understand and gauge where they are, And random schedule for sessions. You cannot have scheduled sessions. It's very difficult. So volunteers cannot set a specific time for sessions. So sessions sometimes cater to just individuals or tools. Weekdays won't work as parents need to use the computers or phones for work. And therefore, volunteers need to sacrifice weekends or any day that fits the needs of the learners, actually. Any day. So this is another challenge also. Okay. And what do we cover for Online Pearl? So as English communication is of crucial need, everything is carried out in simple English. So I would suggest if you have some English language skills, some skills to impart, you would probably be able to do some volunteering online as well. So we've done science in English, geography in English, history in English, and we look carefully at each child's interest, and we try to nurture interest by covering a broad range of knowledge. We also do poetry, language play like tongue twisters, letter writing too. We've we could gather from their responses what they like, what they don't like, and then from then on, we would choose materials to suit their needs. Okay, so this is an example of learning about seawater through WhatsApp to supplement a per video call. So you see here, salt makes the seawater denser. So we were discussing about seawater. So this is science and their understanding of basic science. And on the right here, on the right side here is a simple document shared on antonyms and synonyms. So we could cover, the boy is happy there, if you can see, until this just grows. List of activities just grows. Okay, here are some screenshots of down there, Pearl Google Classroom. Above, an exercise on vocabulary, and here's a Pearl learner showing books that were delivered to him. So yes, we ordered books online. You would be able to shop for affordable books online, from Book Access or Lazada, Shopee, and have these delivered to the students. And we did this simply because they just needed reading materials. Okay, and many of the activities were of a sudden insightful nature, actually. So everybody had to suddenly move online, we know that, and without much time to prepare. So similarly for Pearl Online as well, and for the sake of that safe space for these learners, we think about what to do at times as we move forward. As we move forward, it was much of a trial and error. So we need to quickly pivot to be able to continue our engagement with the community. So, but I'd like to underline here how important it is to have discussions with experts, continuous discussion with experts, funders, and the community when you intend to have community engagement with a certain group of people. Although, keep in mind, although vulnerable, they can sometimes identify solutions for you. So you need to keep an open mind and an open discussion with them regularly. Okay, so some positive takes from online Pearl. Simplicity. Yeah, I'm giving you some positive takes. Simple positive takes from online Pearl. So you need to be able to accept randomness and unpredictability, like really randomness. A call sometime in the day, like, can I have a class with you half an hour later? So you would have to be able to act on it, respond to it immediately. So you need to learn to enjoy learner willingness or commitments and attempts, sometimes very minute, but any learner willingness actually should spark some enjoyment in you. And you would have to be able to accept any kind of parental support. If they can provide a session on a Saturday with a phone, accept it. Anything, take it. You've got to be able to be resourceful with providing interesting materials, because there's nothing else. We've done dialogues, we've done plays online as well. It is possible. You've got to venture into that. And we need to be able to accept that learner active participation is not 100%, not 50% sometimes, but any percentage is fine. Okay, and the importance of being flexible. And also it's important to have a volunteer community. So if you have 5 volunteers, there is a need to have a community where you can discuss and exchange information, thoughts, ideas, what you feel. So it's also important to develop the volunteers carrying out online activities as well. And for the output comes in many forms, actually, in writing, in texting, in photos, videos. So you can see here, one student wrote something out of from being in an activity, a Pearl activity. So this particular student wrote a paragraph of something. Today I will buy a PlayStation, my heart flutters. So from learning, from getting input from Pearl activity, so he snapped a picture of that and showed through the phone. And here it was how feedback is also given through. It was difficult with a capital D, but it's doable. That's what I'm trying to say. It's doable. It's just that you've got to expand your ability to adapt and be flexible. I'm going to show you a video of this particular student, learner. He is eldest of 7 siblings. His ambition is to be an ustaz engineer. and he loves science and archaeology. And throughout the lockdown, we went through. He likes science and all, and we went through a lot of information on North Pole, animals and such. And here's he speaking about how rain is formed. Yeah, I'd like to share with you this how rain is formed. A very simple one, but not very simple for such a student, okay? Such a learner, not very simple. So have a look at this. So, did you notice the noise, the background noise from the boy's house, the boy's flat? Did you notice how difficult it is for a learner such as this boy having to cope with learning when it's not very conducive? The learning space is not very conducive, but he managed to. Okay, so I'm going to move forward with. I'd like to summarize here that there is a fundamental reorganization of assets and strengths to cope with the evolution of community engagement during and post COVID. So there are fundamental reorganizations that we need to keep in mind to be able to cope with community engagement online. But it's not that it can't be done, it can be done. And okay, so if we have time, maybe I would like to probably show you the safe space we had before the lockdown. So just because I noticed that we have got time here. So let me just see whether we can share something, a simple one. Let me see. Okay, I think it's here. Okay, let's have a look. This is way then, before everything happened. Okay. Okay. Okay, that was last year. So let's pray that these underprivileged will get their safe space other than the online engagement soon, inshallah. I hope this presentation has been impactful. You can address questions if you have and email me. My email is there. Yeah, it's just there. There. That's my email address. And thank you and have a very blessed rest of the week. Okay, Umur.
Okay, Dr. Adele, thank
All
you.
right. Thank you. I'm going to leave ya. Bye.
Alright.